Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a totally fascinating and, let's be honest, sometimes super frustrating human quirk. We are looking at exactly why we so often cling to impossible beliefs, even when we are staring undeniable, cold, hard facts right in the face. Understanding this psychological trap might just change the way you look at the world, and maybe even how you look at yourself. So let's get into it. To kick things off, I want you to ask yourself a question. Why do we believe the unbelievable? Like, picture this. After a massive earthquake in India, people who felt the shock but sustained absolutely no damage started circulating rumors about an even worse disaster that was supposedly coming. Why invent fear-justifying rumors when you're already safe? Or think about everyday life. Why do some of us completely block out the reality of how our dinner is made when confronted with the facts of the meat industry? To understand this, we really have to look at how our brains are wired.
And that brings us to Section 1. What is cognitive dissonance?
Here's the deal. Our minds have a very strong, deeply innate desire for order. The second your brain tries to hold two contradicting ideas at the same time, you experience real, actual psychological distress. It's a mental imbalance. Almost 20 years after those earthquake rumors, psychologist Leon Festinger gave this a name: cognitive dissonance. It's the concept that when two ideas are psychologically inconsistent, we instinctively tweak the facts to make them match. We desperately want the thoughts in our heads to align, and when they don't, we'll do almost anything to restore that harmony.
Let's see how this plays out in the real world with Section 2, Case Study 1, the 1954 Doomsday Cult.
Festinger and his colleagues literally joined a fringe apocalyptic cult just to see if cognitive dissonance could make people believe in theories even after they were completely proven wrong. The cult was led by Dorothy Martin, a housewife claiming she was getting messages from superior beings on a planet called Clarion. She prophesied a massive flood would wipe out the world on December 21, 1954. The psychologists watched as her followers went all in, quitting jobs, selling all their stuff, just preparing for the end. But then, December 21st rolls around, and the day passes completely peacefully. No flood, no apocalypse. You can imagine the crushing cognitive dissonance here, right? The expectation was the total destruction of the world. The reality was absolutely nothing happened. So how did they spin it? Martin suddenly pivots and claims the world was actually spared because of the force of good generated by the cult members themselves. Her followers were faced with a stark choice right then and there: face reality or fully embrace this wild new narrative. And this is where it gets super interesting. Sure, some members faced the facts, cut their losses, and left to regain their sanity. But a massive chunk of them did the exact opposite. They stayed. They fully embraced the new beliefs. Instead of admitting they'd ruined their lives for nothing, they actually doubled down. They protected their threatened worldview by choosing to believe an even more absurd story, just to keep their sanity intact.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, well, that's just a fringe cult. So let's look at a modern scenario in Section 3, Case Study 2, the disbelieving politician.
Let's look at Governor Smith. She's an incumbent leader who ran into a fiercely tenacious opponent. Going right into Election Day, the top polling agency had her ahead by a solid 5%. She was so confident her election night speech was practically a victory lap. But by midnight, too close to call. And the physical reality the next morning, she lost the election by less than 0.5%. Her expectations violently crashed right into reality.
At 5 a.m., she gets jolted awake by this text from her campaign manager. "Oh my God, we lost. WTF? Call me." Governor Smith was in total disbelief. In her mind, she had done a stellar job. This text triggered instantaneous severe cognitive dissonance for both her and her manager. They were absolutely fuming, and they just flat out refused to believe the news.
To get rid of that uncomfortable dissonance, they immediately started scouring the election data, looking for any anomaly to justify their disbelief. And they latched right on to this number: 75%. That was the reported voter turnout in Essex County. To the campaign, this made zero sense because historically, the highest that county had ever posted was 33%. Combine that with the fact Smith lost her own home county by more than 10%. In their minds, it was just mathematically impossible. So what did they do next? They concluded this election was rigged. Boom! By 8 a.m., they are on a call with their legal team planning a highly aggressive set of lawsuits. There was no concession speech. They didn't just want to believe the outcome was an error. They genuinely believed it. Rather than accept the incredibly painful reality of a loss, they chose to believe the whole thing was rigged to reduce their cognitive dissonance. Just like the cult, they doubled down. Which brings us to section 4, why we double down. Let's look at the mechanics.
So, we've got an apocalyptic cult and a modern political campaign acting in the exact same irrational way. What is actually going on in the brain here? Well, a basic flaw in our human condition is that we unwittingly blur the lines between social reality and physical reality. Physical reality is a hard fact, like water turns to ice below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. But social reality, that's our subjective attitudes about people or politics. We start treating our opinions like they are absolute laws of physics, and when those views are challenged, we react as if gravity just stopped working.
Festinger figured out that are 3 specific conditions that make changing your mind almost impossible and doubling down practically inevitable. Step 1, you have deep convictions that drive your everyday routine. Step 2, you've taken actions that are super hard to undo, like quitting your job or dropping millions on a campaign. Step 3, you have social support from other believers who echo your views right back to you. When all 3 of these hit, letting go of a belief is incredibly difficult.
I really want to pause and just let Festinger's own words sink in here. He wrote, "A man with a conviction is a hard man to change. Show him facts, and he questions your sources." Wow. That perfectly captures the sheer, unyielding stubbornness of the human mind when our core identity feels threatened, doesn't it? Moving on to our final part, Section 5, changing your mind in everyday life.
This psychological trap isn't just for cult members and politicians. It's happening right in our everyday lives. Imagine buying a house, your biggest financial investment ever, only to discover it's a total clunker. You've got a bad roof, a faulty furnace, thousands of bees in the attic, and some weird smell in the living room you just can't scrub out. Nobody wants to admit they made a terrible purchase, right? So what do people do? They trivialize the problems and tell everyone how great the house is. That is doubling down. It's exactly like playing blackjack. Doubling down in Vegas means risking twice as many chips for a shot at a bigger payout. But doubling down in life, you are risking your actual grip on reality, your money, and your relationships, all just to avoid admitting a mistake. It is an incredibly dangerous strategy.
If we were all just a little bit better at authentically changing our minds when faced with solid evidence, the world would probably be a much better place. So, I'm going to leave you with this provocative challenge. The next time facts directly challenge your deeply held beliefs, or you make a big mistake and get called out on it, take a step back. Will you take the easy road and double down, or will you actually have the courage to change your mind? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today. I really hope it sparked your curiosity.